I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're joined by Kenneth Bull. He is the editor of a thought-provoking book. It is called My Father Killed President John F. Kennedy. This book offers a unique perspective on one of the most significant events in American history, the assassination of President Kennedy, and is endorsed by renowned assassination researcher Robert Groden as a compelling narrative that challenges conventional views. We're delighted to have this very talented creator join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Olympus Story House for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support creators like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing this wonderful book. The links are below the interview. Ken, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. The title is so provocative. My Father Killed President John F. Kennedy. What's that talking about? What's that referring to?
Well, this is an expose of the actual events that led to the assassination, the reasons for it, and the actual planning for it. It's written. The author was a 14-year-old boy at the time. His father was an instrumental player in the assassination, and in fact was one of the three shooters involved in assassination. You know, there's been a lot of controversy about whether or not there was a conspiracy, and in fact, there was a conspiracy. And it was aided and abetted by the military, by the CIA, and by the Mafia, for instance. The book details his relationships with people like Oswald and Ruby, who everybody knows the names of, and the reason for the fact that Oswald was from the very beginning a patsy, as he claimed at the end. He was always destined to be killed, so as to not reveal the real story, and Ruby killed him for that reason, not for any patriotic reason, as he claimed. So the book details the relationships that the author had, that as he was being used as a decoy and a sounding board for his father, as his father was involved in the planning. The father was a CIA operative, and the immediate conspirators were General Bourne, a Major Air Force captain, who was working under Curtis LeMay, who was chairman of the Chiefs of Staff at the time. So the book details the actual choreography of the assassination, who was present, who actually placed the shots, what Oswald's role was in the time, that he actually didn't fire from the book, the depository. He deked out, so to speak, and the shot was fired by the substitute Roscoe White. And that was really just a decoy shot, because the killing shots were done from the grassy knoll, as people talk about. And that was done by Bruce's father, Horace Bell, and his associate Charles Lyon, with a third shooter from the Deltex Tower, Tom Lawrence. So the book talks about the planning for the assassination, the actual assassination, and what happened to the players after the assassination, as Horace went into hiding and to avoid apprehension by the FBI, which was what they feared. The book is followed by a second book, My Descent into Hell, which documents two more assassinations, that of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, which were also orchestrated by Horace Bell. And Bruce's reaction to all that, obviously he was traumatized by what was happening. He was very ambivalent about the initial assassination. But as the other progressed, became more and more disillusioned with his father, and they became alienated and he, in essence, ended up serving in Vietnam as a way to escape from his father, etc. So, in that second book, we talk about the efforts that the CIA went to try to silence him by subjecting him to MK Ultra. For years, MK Ultra was unknown or not acknowledged, but the MK Ultra program has now been fully revealed as a CIA operation, and Bruce was subjected to that process to try to submerge his memories of what had happened, because he feeling realizing that obviously this was an attempted coup to replace Kennedy with Johnson, and part of that was because these people wanted to maintain the military-industrial complex operation of Vietnam being fueled by Vietnam. So Kennedy had written a memo that he was going to stop the Vietnamese War, and these individuals did not want that to happen. They were profiting from the war. So I'm sort of
No, it's an amazing. You've been giving us a tremendous amount of information, all of it fascinating, which is why I haven't interrupted you. And it basically reinforces what a lot of people have suspected over the years, that
yes,
this was not the work of a lone gunman, not the work alone of Lee Harvey Oswald, and
right,
that it was mightily suspicious that the assassin would then be assassinated, because dead men, of course, tell no tales.
right,
And it pointed to a larger conspiracy. And the fact that you have been in touch with Bruce Bell and worked with him on this book, it's quite compelling. And there's so much we still don't know, so many records that are still sealed pertaining to the Kennedy assassination, that seems to
yes.
scream cover up, right?
No, it's obvious that they're continuing to try to hide the real story. Whenever they say we're releasing new records, they're just really duplicates of what has already been released.
Yeah. Tell us about the research for the book.
Well, the book was really researched by, I mean, it's really an expose from Bruce's actual experiences. So
Mhm.
obviously, we did a little bit of when I edited the book, I did a little bit of research in terms of some of the factors, in terms of the origins of the CIA, the Rockefeller family, etc., uh, who were deeply involved in some of this kind of stuff. For instance, Rockefeller's foundation financed the MK Ultra, the development of the MK Ultra program
Hmm.
for the CIA, and done up at McGill in Canada.
Yeah. Lots of money involved, obviously. If the Vietnam War had stopped, people would have lost fortunes. JFK was a proponent of ending the war.
And
And
Johnson was aware of the planning of the assassination, and was promised that he would not meet the same fate if he would agree to continue the war. So that's why the war was continued.
amazing, amazing. Now, this is also going to be the subject, or is the subject, of a mini series. Tell us about that.
Well, this is a miniseries we're trying to sell.
Hmm.
um, so um,
So you're looking to collaborate with a creator, a director, or an executive producer who
yes, of
can take
course.
this story and bring it to the screen, whether it's a TV screen or the movie screen?
Yes, primarily I think it fits into as a mini series. This is what we consulted one of the major producers some years ago, and he suggested that it was too much for a movie. It really required a miniseries format. So I've
Abs
written a miniseries.
Wonderful. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. It definitely would be much more workable in a longer format, 6 or 8 part miniseries, as you mentioned. Very, very interesting indeed. Tell us, how has your expose on the Kennedy assassination been received, as far as government responses or any pushback? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there really have been no responses at this time. When the book was, when Bruce was originally uh, trying to market the book many years ago, there were attempts made by the CIA to block him from proceeding, uh, including hiring uh, a special journalist who was supposed to be writing the book for Bruce, and was actually trying to stop the book from proceeding. And there were attempts made to pressure the uh, publishers and whatever at that time. Uh, at this point, there hasn't been any active attempts to block the book for some reason. We've been sort of worried that maybe the CIA would step in, but thankfully they have not. Um, so.
So maybe they're afraid that if they pushed back there, it would actually make people feel that it's more credible or something. So they decided to
Yes,
just ignore it rather than fight,
correct. I mean,
possibly.
it has served their purpose to use the term conspiracy and as if that is a dismissive term, meaning that it's not credible. When
Exactly.
it's a good phrase to use.
People are sent to jail all the time for conspiracies because
Yes,
conspiracies can be very real, very true. It
yes,
doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory. It can be a
right.
real life conspiracy that happened. And no doubt there's more to the Kennedy assassination than we've been told. Tell us a little bit about the books that pertain to the Robert F. Kennedy and MLK assassinations. Why, in your opinion, was Robert Kennedy murdered?
Well, these were white supremacists, and they were against Kennedy, but they were also against Robert, especially when he went on his crusade to eliminate the mafia.
Hmm.
Um, actually, Hoover had a relationship with the mafia. Um, they they worked together in certain cases, um, and Hoover objected to Robert Kennedy attempting to work on this, and so uh, that was one of the reasons for Robert's assassination.
And for MLK, because he was a
Well,
powerful African American leader, I
right,
presume?
and these were white supremacists.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it.
absolutely. What are you hoping readers will take away from the book?
Well, I think it's important to clarify what had actually happened. I think that the Kennedy assassination um, maintains a tremendous uh, interest from the public. It's important to realize that how governmental agencies uh, operate behind the scenes. Um, we detail a number of negative uh, activities of the CIA in the second book, some of their drug dealing, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and the I think it's important for people to to realize how um, undemocratic the CIA has been and how undemocratic some of our politics are.
Yeah. And I think we see even evidence of that today with political prosecutions taking place right now. I think they're doing a different form of assassination nowadays. They're doing character assassination rather than physical assassination. What do you think about what's going on with former President Trump and all the investigations into him that have produced nothing so far other than a lot of costly legal affairs for him to face?
Well, uh, I see him as an actual true descendant of that part of the Republican Party that was involved in the Kennedy assassination.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm not a Trump fan.
Yeah. And so you feel like he's part of that cabal of
Well,
people.
I'm not certain that he realizes he is,
Yeah.
uh, but he is a descendant of that cabal. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Jack Ruby and his role. Apparently, he had traveled to Russia and so forth prior to killing Oswald, right?
I don't know that Ruby had traveled to Russia. I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Um, Ruby was a an owner of a strip joint club, the Carousel Club. Um, he was a mafia member. He was a pimp.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Bruce had met with him many times with his father. Bruce attended all these meetings with his father to sort of um, act as a decoy to in case there was any question about why these meetings were happening. It was felt that that Bruce's presence as a 14-year-old boy would sort of lower the heat of of the appearance. Um, Ruby was actually was instructed to kill Oswald. Um, he was in a quandary. He did not want to do that because he knew that that would be risking his own life. And there were several phone calls between Ruby and Oris Bell, the assassination, and he was pleading in actual pleading to not have to do it, but he had no option because if he didn't do it, he himself would be killed. So he was blackmailed into that action.
And he was dying of cancer, apparently, also, correct?
Well, he didn't have cancer at that time, but he ended up dying of cancer. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Fascinating, fascinating. Tell us a little bit about Bruce's relationship with his father. Did his father ever talk to him about what transpired that day?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Bruce was fully aware of the planning. He did not know at the he wasn't aware, obviously, of the actual events of this on the day of the assassination until his father informed him of them later on. Yes,
Yeah. And what's it
but
been like for him living
but
under this?
he was aware that his father was going to be the shooter,
Yeah.
along with the others.
What
Uh,
happened to his father after the shooting?
his father went on uh, was reimbursed very well after the shooting, and went on to lead a successful business life. He was in the uh, missile business, um, uh, but he was paid handsomely with all the proceeds uh, that we go into. We actually go into that in terms of
Hmm.
uh, how all that accumulated. Um, and actually he was a broker between ver various aerospace companies,
Hmm.
and was a facilitator, so to speak, and ended up being a major, I think, of a forge company, the Crop Forge Company. He became a leader of that at the end. Um, he and Bruce were alienated through all this later on, and he the father uh, and the CIA had Bruce hospitalized at Rosewood Psychiatric Hospital in Houston, um, to try to, as I say, deprogram him with the MK Ultra uh, process. They later on became Bruce was always had been groomed to be the successor to Oris's businesses, and at the end they had made peace, and he offered Bruce uh, the companies, etc., and Bruce felt that he couldn't take that in good conscience and declined it, and so he was actually uh, blackballed at that point by his father and was disinherited. Um, so
Why do you think they chose to assassinate Kennedy in such a public venue?
I well, there had been many plans to assassinate Kennedy. Actually, there's been one in I believe in Chicago, Um, uh, I guess this was they had to do it where they could have control over the events themselves of the assassination. So I mean, they controlled the limousine driver. He was instructed to slow down so as they passed the grassy knoll, so that they could take their shots more adequately. And there's multi-CIA operatives present on the scene to help coordinate all this.
It was such a life-defining event when Kennedy was shot. I was wondering if you remember where you were when he was assassinated.
Yes, I do.
Tell us about that.
Well, I'm a Canadian, so and I was living in the States at the time, but it didn't. I mean, everybody really esteemed Kennedy. He was a magnificent, positive figure for the vast majority of the country and in the world, for that matter. He had taken major steps to de-escalate the tensions with Russia, which was one of the reasons why the conspirators wanted him gone. And I think everybody felt a tremendous loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then it was compounded, of course, like you say, by the RFK assassination and then the MLK assassination as well. This is quite an amazing account of the Kennedy killing that you and Bruce have put forth. What is Bruce doing today? Is he available at any point to talk
No,
about the book, or is he letting you field most of the questions right now?
no, Bruce actually died about a year ago.
That's what I figured might be the case. So he passed on. So you're here to still carry the word of
Yes.
what happened back then. I'd imagine Robert Grodin's endorsement of this book is quite spirit lifting as well, right? Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, actually, we worked with Robert Grodin for many years, uh, very closely. Grodin and Bruce had a good relationship. Um, Once Bruce got himself introduced to Grodin, and we continue. He and I continue a relationship now. That's been very, very supportive and very helpful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's important work that you're doing. Kenneth Bull is the editor of a thought-provoking book that is called My Father Killed President John F. Kennedy. The book offers a unique perspective on one of the most significant events in American history, the assassination of President Kennedy. It's endorsed, as we just mentioned, by renowned assassination researcher Robert Grodin, and the book was written by Bruce Bell, who contends that his father was one of the men who killed President Kennedy. It's an amazing book. It would be a terrific TV series, miniseries as well. The links are below this interview if you'd like to read Bruce's account. It's quite a impactful tale. Thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. I appreciate your time, and it was great speaking with you, Ken.
I appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.